Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a lesson is doing here today. I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 89th District, soon to be the 93rd, working at it. Today, as promised, we are doing our redistricting town hall, our redistricting course, breaking down our districts and why this all happened. We'll be walking through some very important things. I won't belabor the point. I'll just say last November, we saw during our congressional elections, a lot of people were coming to the polls. They were very frustrated because the person that they thought they were coming to the ballot to vote for wasn't actually on their ballot. And I saw the frustration of voters. And then hearing folks like, what is this redistricting about? Why aren't you going to be my delegate anymore? What's going on here? And that's why we're doing this, is to provide some clarity, some insight as to why the redistricting happened, how it happened, and so on. So we're going to jump right into it. If you have questions throughout this process, please don't hesitate to drop them into the comments. The comments are there for you to have a gander. So let's get right to it. Again, the needs to know for redistricting. Today, you all, we're going to talk about redistricting. We're going to talk about our current districts. We're going to talk about our new districts and the so what, now what. Let me change this view so that you guys can you can see that, right? So what, now what? Because even though we're doing this redistricting brief, there's some things that you all can be a part of that you can do next. So we want to make sure that you are abreast of those things as well. All right. So if you remember, if you all remember, every 10 years back in 2020, it was a big hoopla, right? That we have this thing called the census. And sometimes people forget how important the census is. The census lets us know how much money folks get for flooding from FEMA, hospitals, schools. They tell us apportionment, like how our representation is going to be specifically on each level. And what we saw happen was that as people move, lines have to move. And let me help you understand is that the House of Delegates, where I represent the 89th District, is made up of 100 people. And because there are about 8.5 million people in Virginia, we are sliced up into districts of about 80 to 82 thousand people. So I represent there about 82,000 people, right? Because that's equal representation. What the census does is tells us where those populations have shifted and how we have to redraw the lines. And so if a district now, if people have moved out of one area and into another, and now one district is sitting at 100,000 people and another one is sitting at 70,000 people, then we have to redraw those lines to allocate so that people have equal representation. So that's what happens. That's why the census is so important, because as people move, those lines of who represents where move as well. Again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Don't hesitate. That's what it's there for. And so if we look at how this has happened in the city of Norfolk, right? How this has happened in Norfolk. Let me switch my view for you. If we look at how this has happened in Norfolk, you'll see that we had an estimated population in 2021 of over 235,000 people thereabouts. Our population changed since the last census was we lost about 3,000 people. So we had a 1.2% change. And you see, that's why we've had to, our population has shifted. And so we had a couple of our local wards actually redrawn and moved around. But what I will say is a lot of this data that you're going to see me showing comes from a site. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner called vpap.org. VPAP is an amazing resource for everyone to use if you want to take a look at some of the stuff that we're doing here. Now, Stephen Little, you said, what time is the meeting? I'm not sure which meeting today. This is the redistricting brief. So there's no other meeting outside of this. This is it. This is the same thing that we've given in all the other districts, and we're continuing to give over and over. So this is the population shift. I thought it was, again, really important for you all to be able to see that things have changed, so districts have to move around. Let's see if I can get this to also show you. So what I did was I clicked on on this link and for VPAP, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the VPAP screen so that you can see what I'm seeing. When I click on the population shift and it talks about redistricting, I'm going to go ahead and share that with you all. This screen, this is where I get all my information for. So this talks about the different districts. Let's look at the state house, how people have moved. So this is the official data on how each of these districts that we're in have moved, have shifted completely. So we didn't have, if we go to our district, the 89th, there was the 89th saw a population decrease, right? A differential of about 6,000. So the ideal population. So this is just a great resource for you all to have in the event that you really, really care about knowing that if you're a numbers nerd like I am, that's a great resource. All right. So getting back to the to our PowerPoint here. All right. So how it all went down. So let's get to the why. Why do we even have redistricting? Why is this even a thing? Why did it happen? So back when you went to the polls in 2020, I believe it was, on your ballot, there was a referendum, and we had to approve the process by which we would do our redistricting. And the Commonwealth of Virginia decided, hey, this is how we're going to do redistricting. We are going to have the voters approve this process called the Bipartisan Cooperation and Commission, this redistricting commission. So if you remember way back when, there was a lot of conversations about the redistricting commission. That actually never came close to making an agreement as to where the boundaries would fall. Now, what ended up happening is that the Supreme Court, right, the Virginia Supreme Court had to task two consultants, one nominated from each party, to draw the lines that did not favor either side. And if we're looking at these new districts completely, y'all, the new districts, the only people who suffered the most out of this, the final product, the only people who were disadvantaged were incumbents, because we saw many incumbents stacked up, 2 in a district, sometimes 3 in a district, in one single district. And that's for good reason, because the way the lines were drawn, they tried to do it as fair as possible. So they took the politicians out of the process. And let's walk down that timeline. So in November 2020, Virginians, we voted for that commission. We had it took place for state legislators to agree to surrender most of their guarded perks, right? We had to surrender those things. One of the majority party's ability to sort of craft legislative boundaries designed to extend their power, all of that left back in before in number 1. So that's where that bipartisan commission came, so that folks didn't gerrymander. To be quite honest, the most honest comment that I heard about this was there was a senator who said, I think this is good because we show up with our bias. Senator McClellan, Jim McClellan said, sometimes we show up with our bias. I remember having conversations about redistricting and wanting to keep my kids' school and things like that. So even if they're not trying to, sometimes there's a bias of what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep within your district, if you just leave it up to the legislators. So the redistricting timeline was always a tight timeline in Virginia. We're one of only 2 states that hold elections for legislative districts in November of the following year, the census. We're only one of 2 states. So Virginia expected to receive population updates. We thought we were going to get these population updates by March, but delays because of COVID meant that data didn't arrive until August. So election officials had no choice but to hold the November 2021 House elections in the districts that had already been drawn on the previous decades. That's why I'm still in the 89th. And unlike the redistricting commission that was set up in other states, the plan, so number 3, the plan presented to the voters did not seek to take partisan politics out of the redrawing legislative process. In fact, the partnership was baked into every step. Legislators, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, made up of a 16-member commission where there were 8 citizens that were nominated by legislators to divide up that commission evenly. And from the start, Democrats and Republicans on the commission took their corners. From the very beginning, everybody on my corner. There were contested votes. The commission hired two sets of partisan legal advisors and 2 partisan map makers, right? So everybody had their people at the table. So red on one side, blue on one side. We got our experts. You got your experts. That really happened. So, yep. So yes, the question here from Elizabeth is so the commission was comprised of legislators, delegates, and senators. Yes. Yep. It was comprised of both. And so because we took our sides with our people, with our professional, this became it was a major impediment as each side was sort of looked to their own experts who would provide this differential legal opinion or interpretations of the election law. This is what we see now, particularly when it came to how the commission should consider the issue of race, right? We stalled over race, y'all. The commission stalled over race. So in November, that commission deadlocked. Everybody walked out. This is why voting matters, right? We voted on this process. And then on December 2021 is when the Supreme Court demanded some partisan cooperation. And we had these special masters take hold of the process. Does that make sense to everybody? And I'll check for questions. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, great. So these special masters had some criteria and standards by which they had to draw these maps. One was population equity. So each legislative district should be drawn to be as equal as practical. That's one thing. With the total population variances minimized with no more than plus or minus 2%. So each congressional district had to be drawn with a total population of plus or minus one person from the ideal district size. Number 2, they had to take into consideration voting rights and political participation. So all the plans proposed by whether it's the commission or the special masters have to comply with federal law, including the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as amended. And the Virginia Constitution and other Commonwealth laws on minority voting rights. This includes the consideration of the racially polarized voting analysis conducted on behalf of the commission, reinstituted in elections concerns. Let me turn this off, guys. I just got a dinger over here making all kinds of sounds. That's not cool. All right. Number 3, they had to consider community of interest. So to maintain the communities of interest in the Commonwealth as required by law, that's required by law. The commission, it says shall, they had to do this, consider the following requirements in order of priority. So in order of priority, number 1, every electoral district will be composed of a continuous and compact territory. Y'all heard that? And shall be constituted as to give as nearly as practical representation in proportion to the population of the district. Meaning, don't be trying to scoop around this little piece and go up. It needs to be a continuous line. Does that make sense? A continuous line. Right. So that's number 2 as far as communities of interest. Integrity and priority of existing political subdivisions had to be preserved to the extent as possible. So no unnecessarily divisions of already sort of established subdivisions, right? Number 3, districts had to be clearly defined and discernible boundaries, so that they had to have reasonable compact compared to the existing political subdivision. Number 4, neighborhoods or any geographical group of people living in an area who share a similar social, cultural, economic interests shall be maintained to the extent as possible. So it's like taking, let's say they drew downtown Norfolk, if you're familiar, where the housing projects is, and they were like, we're just going to split the housing projects in fourths. Right? That doesn't make sense, because that's a group of people who have a common interest, a common economic interest, similar cultural and social interests. So like that's the third part. That's communities of interest that had to be maintained. So just making sure there's no questions. I'm looking as you guys talk. Number 4, so that was all in community district. The number 4 thing that they had to consider when they were drawing these maps is political neutrality. So the maps can't favor any political party. The commission and the special masters can review the data to ensure compliance with the political neutrality provision, to consider incumbent addresses as a part of the drafting process. So they could consider it, but let me just tell you, that's not number 1 on the list. Number 1 is population equity, and that we're following the laws, that we're supposed to. Does that make sense? The criteria by which, hopefully that makes sense to y'all, this criteria by which they had to draw out these maps. Okay, so moving right along. So looking at the final redistricting maps, there are the final maps, redistricting maps prepared by the special masters. They are fully compliant with constitutional and statutory law, as directed by the court. So the court it was in a apolitical and nonpartisan manner, which is why you see a huge amount of turnover. And we'll take a look at that turnover a little bit later, of what that looks like, why that is, and that it's across both the turnover and the stacking of incumbents. It did not see a party. So they equally looked at the Virginia statute, the 14th Amendment, the Constitution, and the Voting Rights Acts to make out these districts. So when you hear folks, I hear folks was like, these Demings over here and these over here, people on both sides saying the other side made it biased, when really the politicians were not in the process. They were not in the process, and as you can see that they gained the least. The legislators, the politicians, we gained the least out of this. All right, so let's talk about these new districts, right? In the city of Norfolk, in the city of Norfolk. So this breakdown was for Norfolk's, but if you're somewhere else and you want to look up your specific district in your space and place, that is fine. I'm going to provide you with the link and information that I used to get all this information. The first district that we have, in the city in our House district is House District 92. Now, I'm going to be showing you the maps 3 or 4 different ways so you can get a clear depiction of what each is. Let's start in the center, that middle map. That middle map is the darker space is the new 92 district. That lighter space is a depiction of how the 92 is comprised of with the other districts. So if you look at that middle map, you'll see that the new 92 is comprised of pieces of the old 90th, pieces of the old 89th, and pieces of the old 77th district. Does that make sense? To give you the district on the right side of your screen, which is the total 92nd district. Okay? I'll give you guys a chance to take a look at that. So there's some overlap there, so you can see how this district was created, right? And so that district is predominantly the 89th district. And as I go through the district that I'm in, I'm going to show you how this is broken down and how you can see more information about each district. Okay. with the next district. I have to have 2 slides for this because there's a little bit of ridiculousness that you're going to see on the 93rd. All right. So I had to do the 93rd in 2 slides, right? Because, hold on, let's see if I can get this up. Because the new 93rd, actually, let me go back for a second because I'm going to open up this to see if I can get to the right page for you guys. Like, give me one moment. There we go. All right, there we go. All right, so let's get to the 93rd. 93rd here. So 93rd, the 93rd district, wow, right? It's comprised of 4 of the old districts. This tells you how weird these districts were. 4 districts. See that? So I had to pull this picture on your left with the big 100. That is the House District 100, which had this tiny piece of Norfolk, the Granby area over there, all the way up, the Alright area, Appomattox, that place over there. So like that District 100 was really weird because you had a tiny faction, if you look on the right, a little piece of Norfolk that was just dug out in there. So the 100th district, the 79th district, the 89th district, and the 90th district all are pieces of the new 93rd, which looks like this, right? So if you look at the overlap of those districts, and you're like, wow, right? So we overlap that a bit. Now, back in last year or the year before, maybe 2 years ago, I think it was at this time, and you're probably looking like, well, why does that line go down there? We passed a law that made sure that precincts remained whole. So oftentimes people would go to, let me go a little bigger. Oftentimes there would be people that would go to their district, they would go to their precinct, and their neighbor has a different voting card, has a different ballot than they do, because you got 4 different people. The way we were chunked up, you go to a precinct and you got 5 different ballots, 6 different ballots, 7 different ballots that are being printed out at that one precinct. So we passed a law to make sure that each precinct has the same, we're no more 50 different ballots out of one precinct. Right. So if you vote at one precinct, then everybody in that precinct votes at that same place. So you'll see some weird lines because they have to keep that precinct whole as well. That's a good thing. I believe that's a good thing that happened there. But what I also want to share with you is how I got this information. So I took these maps or uploaded these maps from a place called VPAP, as I said before, Virginia Public Access Project.org, VPAP. And I'm going to put that in the chat for everybody. .org. I'm putting that in the chat for everybody. Okay. So VPAP is just a phenomenal resource for you all to just check out what is or isn't happening. And I'm going to show you the 89th district because I think, that's the 93rd. That's the district that I'm in. It's only fair. I don't want to show any bias to anybody, just going to show this district. And so this is where I got the maps from. You see vpap.org up there. This is where I got the map from. Right. And what it did is you'll be able to see your boundaries. Right. So I could see who won where. I can look at the local boundaries, make sure the local boundaries, that's the city of Norfolk. And this is how much of the city of Norfolk let's do this. That's how much of the city the district entails. That makes sense. You see all of that. I can look at the previous boundaries. I can take the new district off. This is just a great tool to sort of look at and play around with. Also, I can see how the district was formed. Like I told you, 4 districts came together to make the new 93rd. So this is predominantly the old 90th district. You got the 89th, the 100th, and the 79th, all to make this district, whole. What you can also do is go back to the district and see what the old 90th was, right? So the old 93rd, was up in Newport News. So now you have to make sure you say the new district. Here on VPAP, what you can also get, again, VPAP, VPAP.org, you can get precinct results for the specific district that you're in. So if you want to look at how your, a list of the precincts that are in the district, right, how they did with early voting, how they did with mail-in voting, and the particular precincts. And I'll go to mine and it'll tell you how that's split out. Also on this page, you can look at the elections, right? You can see who's running for this district, right now, and you can get their campaign finance information. So like that is the thing, right? Is looking at who these people are and deciding who's going to be your pick. You can go back years, but there is no early years. This is the first year that we're having an election in this 93rd, so you can't go back. And then you can go to the district profile. All of this is on the page. You can see the district, and you can see how it's broken down racially, ethnically, and it'll say who your current and who is the incumbent in the race, because I have not won this race. We're going to work to do it, but who the incumbent is and all of the status of the different elections. Does that make sense? Right? This is just a resource for you all. I'm trying to see where it'll tell you just to make sure that I'm doing this right. I thought, let me see something real quick, guys. Okay. All right. We'll move right along. Oh, let me see. Oh, guys, that was bad. Let me switch my screen. Let me switch my screen so you can see this better. My apologies. That whole time I was doing that with my big old face up there. But so you can see the different boundaries and all that good jazz, right? Everything. Let me walk back through these screens again real quick. The precincts, all of that. Yes. And I saw someone put there, you can see their finance. Yes, you can see people's finance report. Actually, you can click on their name, the number, and see where their money is coming from, right? Click on that information and that'll take you to VPAP has so much information here for you guys to get at. Elections, money, the General Assembly. If you look at the General Assembly, you can just see how we're broken down by age, profession, who was born here, who wasn't, how many money, right? Where we actually investments and everything. So there's a lot to be seen on this website. So it's just a great resource for you if you're trying to figure out what the General Assembly looks like and what it doesn't look like. Sounds good? All around a great resource for us. There we go. Let's make sure we share our screen. Let's get back to it. All right. And so there we go. Then you have the new 94th. And this district is pretty wild. Look at that. You can tell how weird this was. This House district is made up of 5 separate districts: the 100th, the 89th, the 90th, the 83rd, the 97th, the 79th, all to make this one district that is a continuous. You see that continuous line there, right? So no longer are we 5 separate districts. So that one laid on top of those make up this one district, right? Yowzers. If you're looking at that, that should do something. That should say something to you. Yes. Because that's wild that this is now one whole district. We are making ourselves whole. Now, before I go into the other districts, I want to do something real quick. I want to say this is that if you're looking at redistricting, and I've had people say, I'm so upset, you're not going to be on my ballot, I get it. Yes. Oh, thank you, Ms. Charlene. Before I go on, I'll make sure I put this out there, that VPAP is a non-profit, nonpartisan organization. Absolutely. They just put out the data. They just spit out the facts. So they're great. And thank you, Patricia. I want this to be a wealth of information for you all as well. Now, here's the deal. Right now in the city of Norfolk, I want you guys to take a guess, and I want you to put in the comments, how many people that live in Norfolk are in the General Assembly right now? How many people representing that represent Norfolk, but also live in Norfolk are in the General Assembly right now? I want to take guesses. I want to see them. You got to give them to me fast so I don't be holding people up that come back to this. Take a guess. How many, let's just start with the delegates. How many delegates? Because right now, Norfolk has at least, if we're looking at this picture right now, there are 5 districts with pieces of Norfolk. 5 districts with pieces of Norfolk. I see your guesses. I see them. How many people? All right. Let me blow your mind for a second. Okay. Right now, the city of Norfolk has 5 people that represents pieces of Norfolk, but only 2 people live in the city of Norfolk. Do you hear me? We have 5 people that represent parts of Norfolk, but only 2 live in the city of Norfolk. Why is that? In the Senate, how many people do you think from the Senate representing Norfolk live in Norfolk? How many think? How many in the Senate? Because we're going to go over the Senate districts next. Oh, Miss Charlene got it. I love the votes. Look at 2, 10, 4. Yes. Oh my, why? I love this. I'm going to talk about it. But Miss Charlene got it. There are 0 people in our Senate that represent, and I love the guesses. Thank you for taking the time to guess. There's 0. Not a person that lives in Norfolk, not one, is in our Virginia in our Senate, state Senate. Not one, 0. Do you hear me? Not a one. Not a one. And that's wild. So right now, if we look at our Senate districts, we'll look at that. We have 3 Senate districts that have pieces of Norfolk. We have 5 House districts that have pieces of Norfolk, right? 3 and 5, right? 3 and 5. That makes 8. But only 2 people, 2, live in the city of Norfolk. That is because that's how our districts were drawn. That's why. Those crazy districts that you see with all these pieces, that's how they were drawn. Here is the beautiful thing that is going to happen for the city of Norfolk, is that at a minimum, we will have 1 person from the city of Norfolk that lives in, that lives in Norfolk from the Senate, right? The city as en masse, you'll see when I show you the Senate districts, the city en masse has 1 Senate seat. And then we have the potential for 3. I'm adding 3 to that 1. 3 potential House of Delegates people that will most certainly be from Norfolk. We have doubled our representation based off of these redistricting maps. We go from 2 to 4. 4 representatives in the General Assembly, 1 in the Senate, and 3 in the House. Now, that could be even more. If you just hang in here with me, that could be even more. And I'll show you how. Now, these other 2 Senate districts that we have are these 2 House of Delegate districts. District 95 has the potential to have someone from Norfolk living there. There's a small piece of Norfolk in House District 95, right? A very, very tiny piece over the Costco area over there, right? There's this very, very small piece. So that's the potential. So we can go from 2 to 5, right? In the 95th, there's a possibility there. Then if you take a look at our new Senate district, I told you we had 3 separate districts, District 6, 5, and 7, right? And if you look, that's in the upper left-hand corner. And in the lower left-hand corner, you should see how District 21, the new Senate District 21, overlaps with all those 3 other Senate districts. And there's a little piece, if you look on the right side, you'll see, I don't know if you guys can see my arrow. You might not be able to see my arrow, but a little piece of East Beach over there in the upper right portion of the border, outside of the border of Norfolk, upper right, that's East Beach. That is Senate District 20, I believe, 20 or 22. Today at the breakfast, people kept saying the wrong district, and I think they got me saying the wrong. There's a possibility that a senator, because we do have a senator that lives, a candidate that lives in Norfolk running for that Senate seat. So there, we could possibly go from 2 to 6. But 100% we're going to go from 2 to 4. Does that make sense to you guys? I hope that does. I hope that makes sense. So we're in a great position, y'all. We are in a great position to have some really amazing things happen for our on the state level. On the state level. Yes. On the state level, we have a lot of opportunity, and we're getting ready to wrap up. So if you guys have questions, comments, go ahead and make sure that they're in the chat. Now, it's important to recognize that because I said these districts don't favor incumbents, that there's some real stuff to be considering, right? That incumbents were the biggest losers of this whole ordeal. Now, redistricting elevated the turnover especially in the House. The new legislative maps that were drawn without regard to where current legislators reside have been the primary motivator for people exiting the Virginia House of Delegates. 1 in 4 members are leaving. So far, there's been a total of 30. And I think it's more, right? I think it might be up to 33 at this point. So far, there's been a total of 30 delegates that plan to retire or want to run for a higher office in November. This map, this thing I thought was pretty cool. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Let's see if it's sharing. Yes, it is sharing. Let me see if you guys can see what I'm seeing. Yes, you can. Yay. All right. So this map, this right here is from BPAP, right? And you can see here, when I click on here, it'll tell me exactly who's retiring, right? All of these people are retiring. All of these folks are seeking another office. Can you see that? Let's make this a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, there it is. So all of these people are retiring right here. If you can see the name, the reasons that they're leaving, right? They're retiring. That's 18 are retiring and 14 are seeking a higher office. They're trying to go over to the Senate. What that means for me is that there means opportunity. That is 100% opportunity. Opportunity to grow, opportunity to have fresh mindsets. That goes both ways, right? Just as we try to get more people in on here, the other side is going to see some more people, and we just don't know what we're going to get, which is why your participation over the coming months is going to be really important. It's going to be super important. One, that you educate people on the process, that it didn't favor any party. 2, that you let them know there is an opportunity, because what happens now is for the next 10 years, we will have these maps. So what you're going to see is there's a possibility that the folks that get elected here will be here for at a minimum the next 10 years, possibly, maybe, don't know. Because there's a number of reasons why people get voted out. There's a number of reasons why people decide not to continue their service. So there's opportunities. So look at this. You say if people vote for competency in the state Senate, then yes, I hear you. I hear you. We want people to vote for doers, right? We want people we want doers and thinkers and innovators representing us. I know that's how I feel. I'm looking at the whole people, because I got to go to the voting booth just like you. It is going to be a long haul. It's going to be a long haul for us. So let me take this redistricting and go back. All right. So let's see. Let me make sure. All right. So what's next? What's next, y'all? What's going to happen next? Here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. This is why I want you to know is that, number one, I need you to make sure that you're registered. Are you? Right? Are you registered to vote? You can go to vote vote.elections.virginia.gov. Vote.elections.virginia.gov. I'm going to say that again. Vote.elections.virginia.gov to make sure that you are registered. From there, verify your particular district, your particular poll, and we will do that. I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can make that happen. Verify that your particular district or your particular poll. If you help your seniors too, because I'm going to tell you, that's the crowd that's going to come get me and be like, where I'm going, where I'm supposed to be going, right? Like, that's the deal. Like, verify that it is, and then go ahead and get out there and vote. But before you do that, again, you got to know your precinct and you got to know your status. That is the one thing that we can do. Let me go ahead and get you all to the website. Oops, let me not share that. Hold on. I don't think I shared this. You guys were seeing this, that I can see this on the last one. We'll go back to that. But what I want to do is have you all be able to see, and I'll stop sharing, remove that from there. We're going to go to vote. I'm going to type it in, vote.elections.virginia. We're going to share that tab. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys see here. Here, let's do the big screen. Here's a perfect place where you can take and you can check out your, are you registered to vote? You can check your registration status. You can find your polling place. You can apply for an absentee ballot, right? There are timelines specifically that we have to follow, but this is important. Okay. The second place that you can go, I'm going to take you here to, I'm going to start sharing this screen instead. You can also go to VPAP, like under redistricting. The fun part is under redistricting, you can put your address in. Right? I'll just put this address in that's there. Let's go. Let's see this address. And what you'll see is they'll give you your Senate district, right? It says your current representative is Bobby Scott, this Senate district. And then you can go to your House district and it'll say, this is the important part. When you look up your address, it'll say your current delegate is Jackie Glass. She is not running in your new district. That's because I'm not in that district anymore. However, from there, you can look at the candidates for your general election and you can find out more information about your new district. That is also a huge plus, right? A huge plus in being able to figure out what's next for you. Does that make sense, y'all? I hope so. I'm looking in the comments. Let's see what we got here. So is this info session? Yeah, it's being recorded. This is on Facebook. It's on LinkedIn. It is also on my YouTube page, the Delegate Jackie Glass, and on Twitter. So it'll be there in perpetuity for you to see. Absolutely. Next, it says, please look at the record, the service to their constituent, because they're your friend, and that helps tremendously in making decisions of people who vote for doers. Yeah, make sure most people who are actually almost everyone who's running has a record of some sort. So it's really important. If that is important, if a person's history is important to you, then you definitely need to be doing the check-in for the one time about what people have or have not been doing as they've been of service. Okay. I totally agree. All right, so let's share this tab and see. Let's go from here, y'all. Okay. Oops, that's the wrong tab to be sharing. Hold on. Okay, let's share this tab. See if we can get this. Let's see if we can get this right, guys. All right. So we've just got a couple more things that we need you to do. And once we get you to do these things, we can be cooking with grease or peanut oil or whatever it is that you choose to cook with. Lastly, an important day is that May 5th, yesterday, May 5th, absentee voting started. Many areas have one poll location open for you to go ahead and have a gander and get the information and go down there and vote. A lot of folks, I'm sure you saw yesterday, showing the I voted stickers. This is specifically for the primary, right? The primary is what's out ahead of us. Next, on June 20th is the last day to vote. The last day to vote in our June primary is June 20th. That's the last day to vote. So we are in voting season right now as it pertains to primary. So get out there, get it done. And there will be satellite locations opening those last 2 Saturdays or so of the year. Now, lastly, once we get past the primary, we'll start voting season. The last day to vote in the general election, I'm just saying this, the last day to vote is going to be November 7th. We need to stop saying that it's election day, because we don't got election. We have voting season. We have an election season. So people need to take time during that season to vote. And the last day to vote is going to be November 7th, right, for the general election. All right. So what I want to do too is thank you all for your time. Feel free to reach out to us to ask any questions or concerns. It's what we're here for. It's kind of our thing. It's kind of what we're here for. To do the things and to be to represent and to be of service to you all. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, as you can see, our email address is on the screen. It's deljglass@house.virginia.gov or 757-472-1293. You can get a hold of us, and we'll do our best. This particular PowerPoint, or if you all want it, we're more than happy to send it to you. If you feel like it's something that you want to present to your church, your civic league, or whoever, that is fine. Take it. It's yours. Just reach out to our office and ask for a copy and we'll get it to you. If you want me to come present it, I don't have any problems with that. If we have the time, I will make sure that we get there, but we just got to make the time. We've got a whole season to get people to understand what's happening. Our goal is to always instill trust in the voting process, because it is a trustworthy process, right? It is a trustworthy process. We just do the work. Okay, let's see what we got here in the comments. So if you got questions, again, I said it'll take about 45 minutes of your time. We are at 10:48. For those of you watching the rewatch, I've taken about 45 minutes of your time. And we'll wrap up here once we get all the questions out. So let's see what we got here. Ms. Charlene said she received her ballot yesterday, and only the senator question was on it. Well, that probably means that, depending on the district, then that means that there's no primary for you for your House district. If you're in House District 93 or House District 94, then there is no primary. There is no primary for those 2 districts. Okay, that makes sense. If you're one of those, you're only going to have the senator question on it. So that's probably why. Patricia says, great preparing for another meeting. Good. Keep going. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate Air at boot camp. Oh, you're very, very welcome. So glad. It's just say nope. I'll try to say nope too, but I'm trying to grow up. But that was our word first. I think our generation had that first. Thank you. We appreciate you. I'm grateful for your work, y'all. Doers get more done. We need you. Miss Charlene says, thank you for educating on the process. Here for it all day, every day. That's what we do, right? we try to make it happen, Captain. So if there are no further questions, I will leave y'all to it. We got the gift of time, 10 minutes. I told y'all, I try to respect your time. But this is hard, y'all. We are in a time where there are so many people trying to poke at this process in a way to invalidate it and have us thinking that this is not having a clear understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it. They will put the partisan piece in there on either side. And that's not what we're doing today. We're just trying to be educated, because fundamentally our office mission is always to educate, advocate, celebrate, and legislate. 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 Legi better quality of life and better systems and institutions with a pure heart and clean hands. And that's what we're doing today. We educate, and I hope that you take this information and you pass it along as well. Okay. All right. Until next time, I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the Laystone legislator for the House of Delegates 89th District, working for the 93rd. I will catch you guys next Tuesday at 6:30 a.m. if you decide to join us, or next Thursday at 6:30 a.m. for the morning dew for certified doers. All right. Be well.